Not buying it. The New Orleans Saints will pass on Shedeur Sanders at 9 overall in the NFL draft. Ladies and gentlemen, the backdrop, Ross Jackson. I'm not going to lie to anybody here. I'm seeing things real clear when it comes to the NFL draft right now. I honestly believe I've got the top 10 pretty much dialed in. And I think I'm seeing through the smoke. I think I'm reading the tea leaves. Vegas is starting to release some lines of where they expect players to be drafted. We're getting some inside information. I'm putting it all together. And I've got you. I've got you covered right here. So we're going to listen to Ross Jackson. We're going to talk about it a little bit. And I can't wait to react along the way. By the way, this is going out on Easter. Happy Easter, ladies and gentlemen. I could have taken a break today since it was a holiday, but I'm not. So enjoy your holiday. I hope you had a fantastic, I hope you had an excellent Easter.
Even though Derek Carr might not take the field for the New Orleans Saints in 2025, whether it's because he gets surgery on his AC joint sprain or the shoulder injury, or he ends up off the roster in a post-June 1 cut or off the roster in a post-June 1 trade, I still don't think.
I think it's crazy that we're still talking about, like, yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess we'll see if Derek Carr's back. Brother, he ain't coming back. All right. I can't remember what video I was just watching. Maybe it was Mike Mayock or something, but they were like, yeah, maybe if Derek Carr can be the mentor to the young quarterbacks in the room. What?
Shedeur Sanders will be the pick at number 9 overall for the New Orleans Saints. Now, let me clarify my position on this very, very clearly. I would take Shedeur Sanders at number 9. To me, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft class. However, that doesn't mean that the New Orleans Saints feel the same way, and it certainly doesn't feel like the NFL feels the same way. So why is it that I'm not convinced that the New Orleans Saints will go shopping for a quarterback at number 9? And I say that specifically for a reason. Not only do I not think that Shedeur Sanders would be the pick at number 9, I don't know if a quarterback's going to be a pick at number 9. Now, it's
I mean, that was a hell of a riddle. I'm not even sure what just happened. So Ross is saying he thinks Shedeur. I just gave myself goosebumps listening to that. That was bananas. I feel like I was reading a David Foster Wallace novel. So Ross is saying that he thinks Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in the draft, but that the Saints might not feel that way. The entire NFL might not feel that way, and he thinks that the Saints won't draft a quarterback at 9, specifically Shedeur, but he would draft Shedeur at 9. I think is where we're at.
It certainly could be, right? I'm more open to the idea of a quarterback at 9 for New Orleans and Shedeur Sanders at number 9 for New Orleans. I'll explain why I'm not super keen on the idea of Shedeur Sanders to New Orleans.
Okay, hold on. So he's open to an idea of a quarterback at 9, but not Sanders at 9?
Not that I'm not keen on it, but why I don't expect them to take him at number 9, even though I would. Let me start there, and then I'll tell you why I feel a little bit differently when it comes to quarterback as a whole.
Damn, this is wild.
When it comes to Shedeur Sanders, too much noise. Simply put, too much noise. You talk to Kellen Moore, he's very good at giving only the information that he wants to give. You talk to Mickey Loomis, only gives the information that he wants to give. How all of a sudden does everyone just know that Shedeur Sanders is the pick at number 9?
Okay, he's saying too much noise, as in like too many people in the media are saying it. I thought for a second he was saying that Shedeur, there's too much like drama and noise with him as a prospect.
All the way down from mock drafts that are out there from the national side of it all, to people that are looking at this draft from different angles, to Deion Sanders openly teasing on national television during the Colorado Pro Day that Shedeur Sanders to the Saints has some smoke with the I like these colors, and Louis Riddick over on the other side, winky, wink, wink. To me, that's a little much. The draft is all about having a poker face. The draft is all about keeping secrets. And I don't understand what the value would be of a Deion Sanders going out there and telling the whole world what the cards they're holding are. That doesn't make any sense.
Deion is trying to get his son drafted. Deion is not trying to get his son to go to the Saints, he just wants his son to be drafted. Whether that's the Saints, whether that's whoever. Deion threw those comments out there after all the other teams seemingly backed out. After all the other teams in the top 10 pretty much said, we're good. So he's looking around like, oh, damn. it's down to New Orleans. Like, that's it in the top 10. Once the Giants did what they did, once Cleveland was out of the Shedeur Sanders market, there's no one else. The Raiders have said, the Raiders went and got Geno. The Jets went and got Justin Fields. Like, it's all kind of right there. So, yeah, Deion is just politicking for his son to be drafted in the top 10 by whatever team. He's not dumb. Like, Deion knows what he's doing, obviously. As far as the mock drafts, the Derek Carr news, this is a good example of sometimes things are like too obvious. And when Derek Carr, whatever happened with him, whatever you said, let's just say he got injured. Lulz. It is Easter. So let's say he got injured. All right. Well, it's really easy to be like, well, wait a minute. If Derek Carr got injured, the Saints need a quarterback now. Oh, Shedeur is actually sliding because all these other quarterbacks. Oh, perfect. But it's just like, that's just an easy peasy, lazy, boop, Shedeur to 9. But when you look at it just a little bit longer, it's like, well, actually, if Derek Carr isn't there, does that make it where the Saints would be more reluctant to draft Shedeur? Which I think so, because then you have to have him play, right? And then you wonder, well, do the Saints even have a high grade on Shedeur? Like, what grade do they have on Shedeur versus Tyler Shuck or Jalen Milroe or blank quarterback or whatever? Like, you have to factor all that in. And like I said at the beginning of this video, now that we're starting to see some odds move, now that we're starting to get some information, it's like, well, these tea leaves are starting to make it look like blank, blank, blank's about to happen. I'll give you one example. So Jaxson Dart has been a big talking point at 9 for the Saints. A lot of people, Todd McShay, said he thinks that Jaxson Dart will go 9th overall. Jaxson Dart is currently the second favorite to go 9th overall, right behind Shedeur Sanders, right? Well, Daniel Jeremiah today said that he believes that Jaxson Dart will go after his teammate Walter Nolan. Well, Walter Nolan sure as hell isn't going 10th overall. Jaxson Dart's number comes out as circa his draft prop number, 21.5. That is a long way away from 9. Oh, and today, the NFL updated their list of players who will be in the draft green room. Jaxson Dart, gone. He was part of this. Now he's not. Jaxson Dart and Mikael Williams are out. Maxwell Harrison is in. So let's put all that together. Daniel Jeremiah says Walter Nolan will get drafted before Jaxson Dart. Circa puts Jaxson Dart's number out at 21.5. And Jaxson Dart gets told, hey, man, maybe you should watch the draft from home. None of that lines up with him going 9th overall. Okay? So the idea of like, well, maybe they'll take Dart, maybe they'll take Sanders, but no matter what they're taking a quarterback, you can go throw that out, throw that in the trash. Now, who else isn't on this list? Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is not on this list. Okay? Now, I think Shedeur was invited but declined, whatever. Shedeur's number comes out at circa at 8.5. All right, over under 8.5 says prop. Heavily juiced to the over. So they're expecting Shedeur to slide. All right. All of that lines up with the New Orleans Saints aren't taking a quarterback at 9 because I don't think they think a quarterback is good enough to be taken at 9. If the Saints were drafted at 17 or 15 or 18 or whatever, they probably would take a quarterback. But you can't reach now because if you're not taking Shedeur and you're not taking Dart, you're not taking Milroe at 9, you're not taking Shuck at 9, you're not taking McCord at 9, you're not taking Ewers at 9, you're not taking any of those guys at 9. So to me, it's completely lined up to where the Saints have decided we're going to take the best player available at 9, whether it's Jalen Walker or Tyler Warren or Tet McMillan, even though I don't think it's McMillan either, or whoever they think. They're going to take them at 9, and then they're going to figure out where they have to maneuver to get whoever they like, whether it's Jalen Milroe, trade back into the bottom of the first round, whether it's Kyle McCord or Tyler Shuck or whoever. That's what they're going to do. I think it's laid out exactly how it's going to play. And I think the guy who makes the most sense with the way the draft board is broken out is Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren is who the Saints will take at 9. I think he will be there at 9. I don't see where else he would go. And the Saints are going to take him. And that's how it's going to play out.
The only reason why you do that is because you're trying to entice some team to come and trade up to get ahead of the New Orleans Saints in order to make sure that your son, and this is just a good dad move, I applaud Deion Sanders for it, doesn't slide in the NFL draft.
Right.
Now pair that with the Carolina Panthers, whose general manager did a pre-draft press conference not so long ago and mentioned that no one's calling about the number 8 overall selection, although he's open for it. And one of the reasons why he's willing to trade off the number 8 overall selection is because there would be a belief that the New Orleans Saints would take a quarterback at number 9 that some.
Here's another Fugazi it's misunderstood. The pick that you have to trade for if you want a quarterback in the first round is not 8, it's 20. 8 isn't the pick because who are the quarterback needy teams? The Giants and the Browns, right? In right, like above the Saints. They could just take Shedeur. They don't want to. They're not going to. They're not interested in it. So it's not 8. Now you have to go down. Okay, who now are you having to jump? Pittsburgh is the obvious one at 21. So if you're trying to trade in to take Shedeur or take whoever, Jaxson Dart or whoever, Jalen Milroe, you got to call 20, not 8. If I was the Panthers GM, I would have said, yeah, my phone's buzzing off the hook because his job is to drum up trade value. But I think everyone in that top 8, it's kind of a weird draft because everybody in that top 8 is getting exactly who they want with no competition. The Raiders, they want Ashton Genty. There is no one in the top 5 that's going to take Genty. The Jaguars want Mason Graham. There's no one in the top 4 that's going to take Mason Graham. Like, it's exactly 7. The Jets want Mimbu. There's no one above them. I guess the Patriots could, but the Patriots look like they're going to take Will Campbell. Looks like they want Will Campbell. I suppose there could be a shift there. The Panthers at 8 desperately want a linebacker. They desperately want Jalen Walker. There's nowhere else in the top 7 that he could go because the only other 2 defensive players are already locked in. They're good to go. So everybody's getting what they want. No one's moving around. So even that doesn't line up for all this trade talk of someone jumping in front of the Saints.
Some other team wants, and that team wants to jump up ahead of the New Orleans Saints to grab that quarterback so that they get their guy and the Saints don't get to steal him away, and yet no one's calling. Everyone's talking about how tough it's going to be to trade out of the top 10. That's never the case when multiple quarterbacks are set to go within the top 10. I think one of 2 things happens when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. The New York Giants panic into drafting him, which they should at number 3 overall, or you end up in a situation in which Shedeur Sanders simply falls.
I think he slides.
Falls. He shows up for the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21, or maybe the Las Vegas Raiders surprise and take him at 6, especially if the Jaguars surprise.
Let me tell you this. If they take Shedeur at 6, the Saints would sprint to the podium to take Ashton Genty.
Instead of taking Mason Graham, they take Ashton Genty.
In that situation, the Saints would sprint to the podium to take Mason Graham. Like that is just best case scenario for the Saints is that the Giants panic, which I don't think they're going to.
At 5. Let's say that that's the way that this all works out. Then all of a sudden, maybe the Raiders are in play to take him at 6. Like, there's just as much, in my opinion, a chance that Shedeur Sanders falls beyond 9 as there is that he's not even on the board at 9. I can see either of those things happening. You're watching the New York Giants right now, panic. They're going through. My good friend Tyler Rowland and I talked about this on today's episode of Locked On NFL. They all of a sudden started bringing in a bunch of these young guys. Come for a visit, which like screams the owner walking in and looking at the draft board and going, wait, the quarterback's not at the top? And Joe Shane, the general manager's job is on the line. Brian Daboll, the head coach, his job is on the line. And you're not going with the rookie that could extend your lifespan?
I could definitely see the Giants making a bad decision because the Giants have made a history of bad decisions, certainly recently. But I think passing up Carter would be pretty crazy.
Interesting. Owner walks out, and then everybody goes, crap, we got to get those guys here. And so then they panic brought everybody, all these other quarterbacks in late in the draft. And so I still think there's a chance that Shedeur Sanders isn't even on the board at 9. He shouldn't be on the board at 9, if you ask me. And if he's on the board at 9, he should be the pick, but I'm not convinced that the New Orleans Saints are going to do it. I'm more intrigued by the quarterbacks that you rarely hear about than the quarterbacks that you keep hearing about when it comes to this draft class. Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe. It's those guys that are most intriguing to me, even more than Jaxson Dart, only because they're the ones that we're not hearing as much about. Now, I'm not closing the book entirely on quarterback at 9. The fact of the matter is that once guys like Cam Ward, once maybe not even Cam Ward, once guys like Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Jeanty, and maybe Mason Graham are off the board, the grades, as far as we understand it, are pretty similar for players after that from like 5 to 40. So because of that, if the New Orleans Saints love Jaxson Dart, I could see him taken at 9. I don't see them going that route. I'd be surprised if they went that route. But if they love a quarterback that would otherwise go within the top 40 and they took that quarterback at 9, whoever that quarterback is, it makes sense.
What? If you have a quarterback at 40, Jesus, if you take him at 9, damn. Like, get them out of the draft room. Look, I'm not even sure the philosophy. You got to take the best available at 9. And this would be the greatest draft of all time if 9 is the same as 40. I mean, you talk about deep. I think the guy who everyone is going after is Jalen Milroe. I think Milroe is the key to this because I think all these quarterbacks are seen as, yeah, they're all kind of developmental. Yeah, they're all kind of this, they're all kind of that. None are really ready, this, and this. But the highest upside is probably Jalen Milroe. If you can if you can get him to figure it out, if you can corral all that, I think everyone's looking at him like he probably is like the guy where he's got the highest ceiling. Okay. So if you're going to take a developmental whatever quarterback anyways, the key is Milroe. Now he's so raw and he's such a development. You're not taking him at 9. You're not taking him in the top 10. I think people have learned from the Anthony Richardson situation. So then it's like, what's the perfect number? Where do we have to get to where we can get Milroe? Where we can either trade back into the first or whatever. And him being invited to day 1 makes it sound like he's probably going to be, drafted. Someone's going to move up for him or take him late in the first. I think this is bananas and pajamas. I think Milroe is going to be the second quarterback taken in the draft. I think we're going to see something play out where Ward goes 1, Shedeur falls, Dart falls into round 2, and I think Milroe is who gets taken second, the second quarterback. And then I think you see Sanders get taken. And those 3 are going to be your 3 first-round quarterbacks. And then Dart's going to get taken in the second, and then followed by whatever order of, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Tyler Shuck, Quinn Ewers, whatever. That's how I think it's going to play out. But regardless, I do not think the Saints should or in the market to take Sanders at 9.
It's one of the reasons why I think even if people think of Shedeur Sanders as a second-round quarterback, it makes sense to take him at 9 just to make sure you're the one that gets him. So if there is a quarterback
that might be the craziest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If you I cannot even believe how, imagine you have a second-round grade on Shedeur Sanders. You think he's a second-round player. And then you're like, you know what? Let's just reach at 9 to make sure we get him. What? Wouldn't you be better off trying to trade back into the first or trying to trade up higher into the second or whatever to try and get him than just taking him at 9? I mean, that is... The Detroit Lions GM just came out and said you can get into real trouble drafting for need. And that's exactly why. Because if you're drafting for need and you have those blinders on and you just take a guy because you need him and you're totally ignoring the board and you're totally ignoring value and you're totally ignoring all that, you can get into some real trouble real fast.
New Orleans Saints love, not like, but love, it makes sense to take them at 9. So the opening up of the idea of the Saints taking a quarterback at 9 feels more likely than specifically Shedeur Sanders because of the amount of noise that's not present elsewhere, and the general truth of the NFL draft, which is A, everyone lies, and B, everyone's quiet, all at the same time. So we'll see which way things go. Would I love it if the Saints took Shedeur Sanders? Absolutely. If they took him at 9, I would absolutely love the selection. Do I think they're going to do it? No. I think they go towards a playmaker instead that helps them out on either side of the football, which is going to increase their flexibility and their ability to potentially address other positions in next year's draft. Let's break that down next. This or that.
I think the Saints would go Jihad Campbell if he was healthy. I think they would go Jalen Walker if he wasn't already getting taken. And I think they're going to go Tyler Warren. And I think they look at these quarterbacks as relatively similar. I don't think there's a huge gap between Shedeur Sanders and Will Howard or whoever, Kyle McCord or Jalen Milroe or whatever. So I think the Saints are saying, you know what? Let's take the best player available. Let's see what we can do, see what we can move around. We got more picks than we usually do. If we have to trade up to get Sanders or trade up to get Milroe or trade up to get Dart or whatever, we will, but not at 9. And I agree with that because if they're all, I've used Madden ratings before, but if you think Sanders is a 74 and you think McCord is a 70, but there's 3 rounds of difference, take McCord. And like I said, Milroe is the question mark because Milroe probably has the highest ceiling because he does have the huge arm. He does have the running ability. It's just, can you unlock the rest? But he's not good enough to get taken in that top 15, seemingly. So the quarterback class is too volatile. There's too much going on with it. I just don't see the Sanders thing at all. And now the information we're getting is starting to tell us that. The information is telling us that Jaxson Dart ain't going to the top 10. The information is telling us that he's not going to the top 15. He's not going to the top 20. So it's Shedeur or bust at 9. And we've said it before. The only way you probably go Shedeur, first of all, we were saying to go Shedeur whenever you had Derek Carr because Shedeur wouldn't have to play in the first season. That was a big part of it. A big part of it was Shedeur isn't ready. Doesn't matter. We have a backup, or we have a backup plan. We have a security blanket. Play with Carr. Then Shedeur can take over next year. That was a big part of the Shedeur thing. But it was also when we were thinking like, well, if the board breaks and Tyler Warren's gone and McMillan's gone and Graham's gone and this player's gone and this player's gone. But now that the board has kind of solved itself and we know Warren's going to be there, like a 90% chance that he's going to be there, you just take Warren. So I don't buy it. I don't see it. I'd be shocked. I could see the Giants taking Shedeur before I could see the Saints taking Shedeur. But again, if the Giants take Shedeur, that's great for the Saints because that means another great player is sliding. That means they'll have a shot at somebody else. Because if the Giants don't take Carter, then the Patriots probably have to take Carter. And if the Patriots take Carter, then now Will Campbell's dropping. And now what happens? What do the Jets do at 7 now? Or if the Patriots say, we're sticking with Campbell, well, now Abdul Carter's sitting there at 5. Who takes him, right? Could he slide to 9? Like, there's crazy stuff that can happen if Shedeur goes 3. But that would all benefit the Saints. So I don't think any road leads to Shedeur at this point. I'm just not seeing it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Happy Easter, and I will see you in the next video.